Welcome to It's Your Ego, Stupid, a show lovingly intended for millions of spiritual, intelligent, and imperfect people like you who may at times be led into ego stupidity, a lesser version of yourself and a lesser version of life. This show will give you a much deeper understanding of what ego is, what it's doing to your life, how it can weaken your human and spiritual wellness, and how you can heal in each of these areas if needed. It's Your Ego, Stupid will heighten your awareness of the intense link between your ego and spirit, your humanity and divinity, and the synergy that can lead to the best version of you and your life. Your host is Dr. Nick Martin, a licensed psychologist who has worked in the clinical, university, school, and private practice settings over the past 40 years, while serving as a therapist, diagnostician, educator, and consultant. Welcome again to It's Your Ego, Stupid. And now your host, Dr. Nick Martin.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Nick Martin, also known by some as Ego Man due to my intense focus on ego and how it's impacting our lives, both humanly and spiritually. And I want to thank you for listening to It's Your Ego Stupid on OMTimes Radio. The title of today's show is Roles People Live, the Bully. During the show, I'll be looking at people whose higher ego power energy is leading them towards living in the role of the bully as they go about living their daily lives. A person who seeks opportunities to prey upon the weaknesses of others. A person who enjoys witnessing the physical, emotional, and mental weaknesses of others that they can use for the purpose of various forms of abuse or mistreatment they enjoy engaging in and falsely empowering themselves with. A person who often targets the most vulnerable people they have contact with. A person who bullies others as a means to increasing their sense of empowerment. Today, I'm going to take you into the bully's mind by sharing with you what ego is leading them towards thinking or not thinking, feeling or not feeling, and doing or not doing, and exactly what's happening when a person is living in this role, all in the name of their survival, which is ego's ultimate and only purpose in our life, to be our survival energy, both daily and mortal. During the show, I'll be focusing on two main areas, ego's voice and spirit's voice. When I talk about ego's voice, I'm talking about the mixture of one's ego energy and one's mind. In the case of today's program, the mixture of the bully's higher ego power energy and their mind. The place where their thoughts, beliefs, attitudes, values, and prejudices are formed. A place that can be called the ego mind or ego space, as I refer to it in my work, and lays the foundation for their efforts to bully others in the service of their empowerment. It's their higher ego power energy that's impacting the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that the bully forms and uses in their daily life, which becomes their ego voice. Ego doesn't form the thoughts the bully is using because it can't think and has no awareness of itself, or the energy that it is, or the person whose mind it is infiltrating. The person living in the role of bully forms the thoughts while building upon the ego energy at work in their mind. Ego just provides the fuel, the energy. When ego is impacting what's going on in the bully's mind, they are listening to and speaking with ego's voice, not their own, but they often don't know it. Ego is in the foreground of their life, and they are in the background. Now, ego should be in the background of our life, and only present when needed if our survival is truly being threatened. And that's why tuning into our ego energy is one of the three contributors to ego medicine. We and the bully need to know whose voice we are truly listening to and speaking with in our thoughts, words, and deeds as we go about living our daily lives. Is it ego's voice, or is it our voice? We want to believe that it's ours, but don't kid yourself, which is something that's easily done by many. We all need to get the real, truthful, honest, and potentially painful answer to that question. Is it ego's voice or mine? A question that most people fail to get the answer to because they don't know how to go about getting it. And that's what my work is about, helping you to get that answer and doing something about it if necessary. In a way, finding out if you're living in a role you didn't realize that you were living in, just as the bully is, which is happening for many, whether they're a bully or a victim or a martyr, or any of the roles I talk about in my programs on roles people live, and in my book, The Two Voices Within. Another way of putting it, the bully often doesn't know they're being a bully. The victim often doesn't know they're being a victim. And the martyr often doesn't know they're being a martyr because they're unaware of the ego energy operating in their mind and their life and living on a 24/7 basis. But they need to find that out so they can be speaking with their voice in their life and not ego's. Or they'll just spend their life surviving and never truly and fully living. After I get done talking about ego's voice and what the bully needs to hear more from it during the second segment of our program, I'm going to be sharing in the third segment what the bully is unable to hear from spirit, due to being kept at a distance from spirit's voice by the ego energy at work, and the distancing effect it has on hearing the voice of spirit. Even though the bully has a spiritual core that we all have, due to having the love, life, and energy God is within them, they are not spiritually well, because they can't be spiritually well in their life due to what their ego energy is doing in it and to it. Their unhealthy, higher ego power energy is not allowing them to hear about and be the love, life, and energy God is within their thoughts, words, and deeds, when preoccupied with finding the weaknesses of others in order to further empower themselves. It's not allowing them to fully realize the divine gifts of their life, being able to create their life, their eternal life, and the presence of God within them, because their bullying of others has led them to engaging in lots of ego stupidity and abnormal normal that prevent them from recognizing these gifts. Sadly, Spirit's voice is something they may never hear and come to know unless they heal their ego energy. Sadly, the ego energy of the bully is getting in the way of connecting to their divinity, of being their divinity in their daily life, due to their preoccupation with finding weaknesses in others and bullying them. Sadly, this is something that happens to many people in their life, whatever role they're living in. Many people die living in the role they had been living for 30, 40, or 50 years of their life, never coming to know divine truth and the divine gifts they have received. They never get better. Many bullies never get better. They die never having really lived and coming to know about their propensity to seek the weaknesses in others in order to bully them. They spend all of their time surviving within their bully thoughts, beliefs, values, and attitudes that have made them consumed with empowering themselves through bullying others. With those sobering thoughts, I'll get started looking deeply into the bully by first giving you a brief description of the role of the bully, a person you may or may not be acquainted with in your personal life, but is out there in society, if not in your home, so that we can be on the same page as to the role and the kind of person I'm talking about. The bully seeks an opportunity to prey upon the weakness or perceived weaknesses of others. So a bully is likely to prey upon those who are physically weaker or disabled. A bully is likely to prey upon those who are mentally weaker or disabled. So a bully might try to take advantage of someone who may be mentally impaired, less intelligent perhaps persons who are dealing with a reading disability or some form of learning-related disability, making fun of them, insulting them, in front of others particularly. A bully is likely to prey upon those who are emotionally weaker or disabled, perhaps individuals who are shy or perhaps individuals who are experiencing autism who may have difficulty handling or confronting or responding to individuals who are attacking them for their lack of social strength, willingness to take on those who may be attacking them. The propensity of bullies to pick on safer targets is actually reflective of their inner weakness and desperation to be empowered. You'll notice and you'll probably recall that people that you have known that are bullies tend to look for those who are the weakest. And that's a sign of how weak they are actually and how desperate they are to be empowered. So they pick out a lot of times what I would call safe targets. They don't pick on people who are their own size, again, because they're fundamentally weak people. They aren't strong in the real sense of the word, that is the bully. So they try to be strong in the false sense of it by, again, attacking people who are maybe less able to confront or respond to the bully. In ways, the bully is actually a coward. Some of them have been enabled or encouraged by dysfunctional parents who may have distorted ideas about what it means to be strong. If not parents, perhaps adults, including teachers, who may have a distorted perception of what true strength in a person really is about. Each act of bullying adds to the bully's sense of power. So the more they do it, the more bullying they engage in, the greater the sense of being empowered they experience. So the bully gains a false sense of strength from each act of physical, mental, or emotional abuse or mistreatment, assaulting others, intimidating others, exploiting others, and so on. Each of those feed into the bully's sense of empowerment. The bully learns to associate empowerment and feeling empowered with bullying behavior. So there's a connection that gets established by the bully with those particular mistreatment or bullying behaviors and the sense of feeling empowered. It feeds their higher ego power energy, the sense of I'm having more and more control and influence and power over what's taking place. The more the bully can witness weakness within others, the more they feel empowered. So they enjoy the cowering they see in others when they are near them, seeing people back away or demonstrate their sense of intimidation. When in the presence of the bully enjoys that. They get off on watching people cower in their presence. They enjoy the fear they see in people's eyes, in their words, or maybe in their actions. They like finding the weaknesses of others as a way to distance the bully from their own. So one of the things that's often going on for the bully is by looking harder and harder to find the weaknesses of others, they are they're distancing themselves from their own weaknesses. And this can happen to the degree that the bully starts to form the illusion that their weaknesses don't even exist because they're so focused on the weaknesses of others. It's as if the more I can see your weaknesses, the less I can see of my own in the mind of the bully. All bullying strategies to accomplish this are welcome, and be they physical or mental or emotional or social forms of mistreatment. The desperation to be empowered gives the bully permission to mistreat others in whatever ways are necessary. So if they take the form of physical abuse or mistreatment, or perhaps making fun of a person's intelligence or their learning difficulties, making fun of perhaps their physical appearance, their attractiveness, their body weight, their lack of strength, or if they experiencing the other person a physical disorder, or preying upon, again, somebody's shyness, who isn't capable of responding to the attacks that the bullying is pushing toward them, or the social deficits that some individuals may have. For example, this is not a social deficit, but perhaps a person is a stutterer, and they start to attack them for that stuttering. And that's a reflection of what the bullying person often does. And even engaging in cyberbullying, which is becoming more common nowadays, and it's very harmful and destructive because the reach of cyberbullying is so big. Now, what the bully truly seeks is to gain as much distance as possible from their own weakness. In a way, the bully is hiding from themselves. And sometimes they're doing it to impress dysfunctional parents who have taught them that there's some kind of strength to be gained or known from doing or insulting or exploiting or manipulating or mistreating others. The bully has become more dangerous in today's world due to what I just said about cyberbullying. In my boomer generation, you could contain the damage and the humiliation caused by a bully to maybe a limited number of people. But the internet and social media allows the bully to do this damage on a much larger scale. And by the way, bullying is not to be normalized, because that would mean you're normalizing abuse. And I mention this because oftentimes parents and teachers try to normalize it, just say, well, it's just part of growing up, and that should be something to be expected. And my response is, but it's not normal or healthy or appropriate behavior. So yeah, it may be relatively common, but that doesn't mean we accept it as something that we should encourage or support or ignore, which is what often happens and makes the situation worse, because the bullying is often, the victim of the bully is often suffering in silence. I hope this provides you with some greater familiarity with people who are living in the role of the bully, and that you can use as a frame of reference as we go further in today's show. We're coming up on our first break. When we return, I'll be looking at what the person living in the role of the bully needs to hear and recognize from the voice of ego that's shaping the way they think, feel, and behave. This is Dr. Nick. You're listening to It's Your Ego Stupid on OMTimes Radio. And I'll see you after the break.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes. Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me the Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
Hi, Dr. Nick Martin here. I want to invite you to visit my website, egoandspirit.info, where you can find lots of information on ego and download your free ebook copy of It's Your Ego Stupid. Fix it to fix your life. Also, please visit the shop page where you can find each of my other books, Ego Therapy, Ego Spiritualism, and The Two Voices Within.
COVID-19, brought to you by CDC and the Ad Council.
If you're feeling increasingly lonely right now, you're not alone. It's totally normal. Even though we may not be able to get together in person, connecting virtually with friends and family still gives you a chance to interact with people and may help raise your spirits. Join a virtual book club, set up group text chats, or online video coffee breaks with coworkers.
Find more self-care and coping tips at coping-19.org.
Welcome back. You're listening to It's Your Ego Stupid on OMTimes Radio, a show for intelligent, spiritual, and imperfect people, just like you and me. Now we're going to take a look at the voice of ego operating in the mind of the bully. These are the kinds of thoughts rooted in higher ego power energy the bully is using to survive in their life and serve as the foundation for the thinking, feeling, and behaving they make use of as they go about their daily life. These are the kinds of thoughts that they must come to hear, recognize, and change if they are ever to become a better person, a whole person, and someone who can be their humanity and divinity. Ego's voice says you're to find the weakness in others. Look for it within their physical appearance, demeanor, lack of physical prowess, intellect, or social standing. Weakness of any kind or anything you can make appear weak will do. Here the bully is teaching themselves with the help of their higher ego power energy that they should spend their time looking for weakness in others. Think about that. This notion that one should be preoccupied with finding weakness in others. I think of that as almost the defining mark of what a bully is about. The notion of find weakness, look for weakness in others. Who spends their time doing that if you're in a healthy place, if you're in a good place, looking for the weaknesses of others? And that the bully can use any form of weakness that others may have to prey upon them. And that's when you start to see attacks that are made based on a person's clothing that they are wearing, or their complexion, or their body weight, or whether they are living in poverty, or their athletic ability. Everything and anything becomes the subject matter for bullying to be built upon by the bully. And that the bully can create or invent or even make up weaknesses in order to harm the victim. So the message from the ego energy in the mind of the bully is to even create fictitious things or stories about people that aren't real is in your means to bullying them, to attacking them. To find the weakness and repeatedly attack a person for it, which is what the bully finds. If it works, they continue to use it. The form of attack that they often make use of. Ego's voice says you must use any means to expose this weakness to yourself and others, which allows you to feel empowered. The weaker you can make them, the stronger you will be. The weakness of others is your oxygen, and you must have it. Again, the motion of weakness, preying upon weaknesses. We all have weaknesses. We're all imperfect human beings, so there's no shortage of opportunity for the bully to find that in others as a means to attempting to falsely empower themselves. Here the bully is teaching themselves with the help of their higher ego power energy that they should use any means or any ways available or that they can find to bully others. So they can't let guilt get in the way of bullying others. Don't let that stop you. They can't let compassion get in the way of bullying others, meaning don't reach out emotionally to know how others are feeling. They can't let empathy stand in the way of bullying others. That would stop them. That they must feed off the weaknesses of others to grow their sense of being empowered. Again, false empowerment, but the bully experiences it as empowerment nonetheless. Ego's voice says it is within your thoughts, words, and deeds that you have shown yourself and others that you are strong and powerful. Your strength and power makes you safe, protected, and able to survive well. Here the bully is teaching themselves with the aid of their higher ego power energy that they should look upon their bullying approaches as a reflection of their strength. Think of them as being strong, the mistreatment that one is engaging in. That physical prowess or dominance and attacks upon others, particularly the ones who cannot defend themselves against these attacks, still mean that they are strong. I guess, can you see the ego stupidity, the abnormal normal going on there? That it doesn't matter to the bully how limited the other person is, that they still can experience some empowerment as a result of defeating and mistreating others. That verbal attacks or insults or intimidation and humiliation means they are strong. Again, using these against people who are not equipped to respond to them on an emotional level, maybe on a mental level, maybe on a physical level, that's okay in the mind, in the abnormal normal mind world, the ego stupidity that is being played out within the bully ego voice. That social denigration of others based on their race, their social class, their culture, their religion, their gender identity, or sexual orientation means they are strong. So these kinds of attacks, bullying, mistreatment of others, creating a false narrative or perception of others and attacking them. And unfortunately, we're seeing more of this in some of our leaders and politically prominent people who are displaying a lot of ego stupidity and abnormal normal in their way of dealing with and trying to bully and intimidate and mistreat other people. Ego's voice says the pain and discomfort you have brought to others is of no concern to you. This is weakness, and you shall have no part of it. You must have no compassion for the separated, the unworthy, and the unequal. Compassion For the weak is weakness. This would also allow others to see your weakness and lessen your power. Here the bully is teaching themselves with the assistance of their higher ego power energy that showing compassion for others would be a means to their disempowerment. So being sensitive to or showing concern or care for others would be a weakening, a disempowering kind of thing to do, something that they must not engage in. That they should look upon the weak, as they have defined them, as only getting what they deserve. This is another disturbing, distorted, ego stupidity related, abnormal, normal thing going on in the mind of the bully that, quote, weak people, that's not real, but they think of them as being weak, are only getting what they deserve. Again, that's the ego energy, higher ego power energy, creating that distortion in the mind of the bully, or leading them to create with their own thoughts and ideas and beliefs this notion that people are getting what they deserve and I'm giving it to them. And that the bully must avoid becoming one of them, that is, seen as being weaker, by avoiding any compassion. And that they must never let others see them as being compassionate, because this would lead to their seeing the bully as weak. So the bully must hide they would hide any sense of compassion for others, because that would be a perception that lead to the perception of their being weak. Ego's voice says, enjoy their pain and discomfort, as it is a reflection of your power. Seek the weakest among you, as they will make your task easier. They can be brought to pain most readily and allow you to know your power most clearly. Here the bully is teaching themselves, with the help of their higher ego power energy, to look at the pain and suffering that they have caused to others as an affirmation of their power. To look upon it as a way of enjoying it for the sense of empowerment they have over others by impacting their pain and suffering. That they are to enjoy the pain and suffering of others, again, as this fills them with the sense of power. And that they are guaranteed to experience this empowerment with any targets who aren't able to confront the bully. And this gets into the ones who are people who are clearly experiencing inability to maybe respond or confront the bully. And that's why the bully seeks them out, because they can't respond. They're safe targets for the bully to come to know and experience the false empowerment that they are seeking. And that they are the ones that can affirm the bully's power most decisively. That the greater the suffering and pain caused, particularly those who are particularly ill-equipped to respond to the bully, for the bully that affirms their empowerment even more significantly. Again, think about the abnormal normal, the ego stupidity, the non-reality based thinking that's going on within the mind of the bully. Ego's voice says, welcome those who would celebrate your power and let them embolden you. Allow them to acknowledge you and affirm your power. It is within their company that your actions are further justified. they are your true friends, as they also seek to empower you. Remove or steer clear of those who question you and your actions. They only seek to weaken you and threaten your survival. Here the bully is teaching themselves, with the help of their higher ego power energy, to look for the support of those who would, in a way, cheer them on and confirm the bully's behavior, in a way signaling to them that what's going on and what they're doing, that their mistreatment is a good thing. They're doing the right thing. And to use it, that is the support, to feel even more empowered and that they are doing the right thing. And as I might have said earlier, some of these people can be family or friends or parents or misguided adults. Unfortunately, we can also see them on television for people to falsely acquire a sense of respect. Also, the bully is being told to ignore people who would say that the bullying is wrong. Do not pay attention to them. And to think of them as people who are only trying to weaken them. So they should be tuned out or ignored as a result, or attacked even for having tried to do so. We have reached the end of our focus on ego's voice. I hope that this has given you greater insight as to the impact of higher ego power energy within the mind of the bully. We're coming up on our second break. When we return, we'll be looking at what the person living in the role of the bully is unable to hear from the voice of spirit due to the unhealthy, imbalanced ego energy that is at work. This is Dr. Nick. You're listening to It's Your Ego Stupid on OMTimes Radio. And I'll see you after the break.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Imagine yourself being transported to India, to the banks of the Ganga and an ashram in Rishikesh. Visualize that you are welcome to satsang with an American sannyasi who shares the wisdom of her guru. Your visualization has manifested. Join Sattvi Bhagawati Saraswati for inspiration and transformation every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
If I could be you,
and you could be me,
for just 1 hour.
If you could find a way
to get inside
each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out. And for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Welcome back. You're listening to It's Your Ego Stupid on OMTimes Radio, a show for intelligent, spiritual, and imperfect people, just like you and me. Now I'll be looking at what the voice of spirit is saying to the bully that they are unable to hear due to the blockage being caused by their higher ego power energy, and the distance from their divinity that results from the thoughts and messages contained within ego's voice that I shared with you earlier. Along with coming to recognize ego's voice using ego medicine, the bully will need to hear the voice of spirit in order to fully heal and bring about the synergy, the merging, and the unification of their humanity and divinity. So now we'll take a look at Spirit's voice. Spirit's voice says, "The weakness you seek to expose is not within your neighbor, but within yourself. Every action you take to mistreat your neighbor reflects this weakness. It reveals itself to others who recognize the desperate means by which you seek to be empowered. The mistreatment of your neighbor is a reflection of your suffering. Here, Spirit is saying that the bully is unknowingly on a journey to come to terms with weakness within themselves, and that each of the acts of bullying are reflections of the bully's weakness. So all of the physical, emotional, mental, social mistreatment are actually a reflection of the bully's weakness. The weakness of seeking empowerment via the pain and suffering of others that the bully is instigating. Even though the bully may not recognize it or want to realize it, others see the weakness that they're exhibiting in their bullying behavior. Healthy people see it. That is, people that their ego-powered or ego energy is in healthy and balanced places. We're not talking about people who are enablers that I mentioned earlier in the program, people who enable, encourage the bully to engage in these behaviors to experience some false sense of strength or power in their life, or perhaps parents or teachers who are misguided, who are trying to, in some ways, encourage the bully in what they think is a positive way, but it's not. The bully is experiencing the suffering of failing to be the love, life, and energy God is within their mistreatment of others. Spirit's voice says, the celebration of your mistreatment is also a reflection of your suffering, which is rooted in your own sense of unworthiness, inequality, and separation. Your suffering can never be diminished through the mistreatment of your neighbors. Mistreating them will not lead to your survival either. Only more suffering. Suffering will always come to those who live beneath divine truth. Here, Spirit is saying that the bully's enjoyment of their bullying and false sense of empowerment is actually human suffering. Suffering in which they are treating victims as unworthy or unequal or being separated. And that the bully will always experience the suffering as long as they mistreat others. The suffering, I guess, that we're talking here about includes both not just suffering from living beneath or below one's divinity, but also living beneath one's humanity through the mistreatment, through the inhumanity of the bullying. Bullying and mistreatment doesn't really promote safety or protection or survival or really living. It just promotes suffering. So anytime the bully or anyone else is failing to be the love, life, and energy God is, we are suffering. Whatever form of living beneath our humanity and living beneath our divinity takes is suffering. Spirit's voice says, there can be no mistreatment in the kingdom of heaven, as all are worthy, equal, and one. Those neighbors who would celebrate your mistreatment are not truly being your friend. They are as weak as you have been, hiding behind a mask of strength. They celebrate you in order to protect themselves. They will leave when their eyes have been opened to your weakness and you can no longer protect them. Here, Spirit is saying bullying and mistreating others have no place within our humanity and divinity. That the only place bullying has is within our inhumanity. When we are treating ourselves or others as unworthy, unequal, and separated. That true friendship, that is the friendship between the bullying and those who are their supporters or enablers, does not come from those who are encouraging and supporting our inhumanity. That the supporters are really as weak as the bully in their need to be protected by them within their association. So people who are, in a way, supportive bystanders watching the bully engage in their bullying behavior are also weak. They are weak and they are trying to be strengthened through the association with the bully, but they're not. And that the time limit for the relationship between the bully and those who are supporting them is going to expire when the enablers and the supporters of the bully realize that the true weakness that exists within themselves and the bully, and a lot of times you do see people realize, because I believe inside of them their divinity and their humanity realizes that this is just wrong, it's unhealthy, it's weakness. Spirit's voice says, "Such is the fragile nature of your power, because it is unreal. You have much greater power within your being than you have yet known. The power of your human and divine truth, which will reveal your strength and make you a friend to all of your neighbors. This power will remove any weakness so you may walk in love and not fear." Here, Spirit is saying that the bully is gaining distance from the true empowerment that exists within their humanity and divinity. That our empowerment, our strength grows as we become in touch with our humanity, and a contact that I think is made possible when our ego energy is in a healthier and more balanced place than would be the case for the bully, whose higher ego power energy is impacting them and lessening their humanity and leading them into being inhuman in their bullying and mistreatment of others, as well as interfering with the opportunities to be the love, life, and energy God is. This is an empowerment that's far stronger and stable than the false empowerment of the bully, because it's rooted in human and divine reality. It's the empowerment of human and divine truth. Truth is an extremely powerful part of life, that when we are able to make contact with it, it's extremely empowering. It was our world, our lives were designed to respond to truth in a very positive and healthy and empowering way. Unfortunately, ego energy, when it is imbalanced in whatever form it is, whether it's higher ego power as the focus of today's program or others, often leads to us to gain distance from human and divine reality and further weakens us, leading us to be inhumane. This is truth that can allow you to come to terms with any weakness you may possess. So the bully can handle whatever actual weaknesses that may exist within themselves by making contact with human and divine truth. And it's truth that can be revealed with the use of ego medicine that removes the higher ego power obstacle to the bullies being able to recognize it and to see it within themselves. Spirit's voice says, you and those you have mistreated are in need of compassion. You are brought to the depths of your inhumanity by those who foisted illusions of yourself and others upon you. These illusions distanced you from your divine truth and the divine gifts that you have been given. Let compassion come forth as you ask the forgiveness of others. Forgive yourself and forgive others who have misled you. Allow this compassion to bring you into a place of peace so that you can journey forth in love and not fear to the kingdom of heaven. Here, Spirit is saying that the bully is in need of compassion from themselves and others. Compassion for the lack of guidance from others that has led them towards the false means to empower themselves with bullying of others. Compassion for those they have victimized in order to feel empowered. The compassion of forgiveness as they learn the truth of who they are and what they have done. A compassion in which love replaces fear in how they know themselves and others. A compassion that reveals how strong one has truly become. We have reached the end of our focus on Spirit's voice for this show. I hope what I've shared with you will allow those needing to do so to hear the voices of ego and spirit that must be heard so that they can truly speak with more of their voice in their life and not ego's, and get on with the business of truly and authentically living and not just surviving or existing. I want to mention that you can purchase each of my books, Ego Therapy, Ego Spiritualism, The Two Voices Within, and It's Your Ego Stupid at the online bookstores for Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Balboa Press. You can also purchase focused ego meditations on the shop page of my website, egoandspirit.info, which can help you to know when you are truly speaking with your voice in your life and not ego's, as you go about healing your ego energy where needed, in its power, flexibility, or vulnerability. If you would like to offer any comments, please email me at spiritualawakening777@comcast.net. But please do not leave any attachments, as I cannot open them for security reasons. I end today's show with this message. The great news is that working to heal your ego energy using ego medicine by growing your awareness of its symptoms, ego stupidity, insights, and spiritual impact will allow the divine truth in your being to flow and to shine through you, and allow you to fully embrace each of the divine gifts. The spiritual part of healing is a given, It's part of your endowment. Divine truth and the divine gifts are part of your heritage that already exists within you. You need do nothing more to be spiritual because you already are. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. You only need to enhance your humanity with ego medicine so that all which is available to you is given. Fix your ego to fix your life, humanly and spiritually. Thank you for listening and allowing me to be your servant. Please have a great week and do come back to my next program. In peace and love, this is Dr. Nick saying goodbye for now.